Hi, this is Amber.
And this is Lisa.
And you're listening to Unexplained Arkansas, a new podcast that explores urban legends, mysteries, and the unsolved in the natural state.
We're just two best friends discussing the unexplained in Arkansas.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Unexplained Arkansas. This is Amber.
And this is Lisa.
And this is our 33rd episode. And it is on Sandra Lynn Williams and her unsolved murder, still unsolved. And Lisa is going to be bringing us this story today. So Lisa, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Okay. I didn't know how else to start it today.
I'm laughing because we've had you and me both know what's been going on. So.
Oh yeah. My kids are screamers, and they have been yelling, and they're finally quiet. So I'm afraid that they may come in here and start yelling again. But let's see if we can get this hammered out.
Yeah, and so all three of your kids are reaching out to you, and then my kid was wanting money. So I had to break. Anyway, we are finally doing this. Life is happening, people. You understand. So.
Yes. And again, we are doing this mullet style. So it's business in the front and party in the back. So.
But backward?
What? No, it's business in the front. Like, the podcast. And
but we're going to
party.
Do business.
Oh my gosh. No, a mullet is business in the front and a party in the back.
Oh, I know what a mullet is.
Yeah. Well, we're doing the story first and then our fun stuff and our banter at the end. So that's the actual mullet part. So there you go. So if you like the mullet, then stay tuned. But we're going to start with the business end first.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just laughing at the business. So, this episode is not a laughing matter. No. So this is going to be tragic and deep. So just, just warning for that. So, this is Sandra Lynn Williams. I actually did not know this is her unsolved murder episode. This happened in 1987, and I wasn't actually aware of it until we were working on the Ruby Stapleton case, and the detective that worked on Ruby kind of later on also worked on Sandra, so he mentioned it to me, and then we did have a listener reach out on Instagram to ask us to cover Sandra's murder. And she basically, and we'll kind of talk about why, and we'll mention her, but she was a friend. Her name is Jamie, and she was good friends with Sandra. And so she asked us to do this episode. So this episode is a request and is also just hopeful for information. And we'll kind of go, you'll kind of understand why. So,
I was aware of the case, but it kind of gotten lost in my memory. I worked in law enforcement for a very short period of time, and one of the things that I did was work with reporters on cold cases and things like this. Although I've never worked on that case, but I do remember going through all the unsolved murders and missing persons in White County and, reading about this during that time. I don't remember when it happened. However, when I was a kid, I don't have any memory of that happening. Yeah. But I do later on remember reading about it.
Yeah, and I would have been had just moved to Searcy when this happened, or around that time frame, because I think we came in 1986 or so. So, and of course we were young. I mean, we were only 6 years old at this time. So we, this was not on our radar. So,
no,
because we're so young
and
youthful. No.
Yeah.
So
You
So
know what was
let's,
on my radar at that time?
what?
Alf. Alf was always on my radar. Okay, so
Really?
yes, I love that
Okay.
show. Anyway, okay, so
Okay.
keep going. All right.
Yes. So Saturday, April 25th of 1987, Sandra Lynn Williams had told her family she was headed to Guy, Arkansas. So this is kind of mentioned in numerous spots that she was headed to Quitman or Guy, and they're kind of in similar area. So just mention, if I mention Guy, Quitman, kind of all in the same area. So she was headed to Guy to spend time with her boyfriend Bruce. Tragically, Sandra would never be seen alive again. Okay, so I've already mentioned that. Okay, so Jamie and Sandra, I mentioned Jamie that reached out to her, so they were friends, and Jamie mentioned that Sandra was the epitome of sweetness. So Sandra was only 20 years old in 1987. She was living at home with her mother Norma and her brother Carrie, and they were living in Beebe, Arkansas. And she was working at the same place that her mother worked, which was a nursing home in Lone Oak called the Golden Manor, which Lone Oak to Beebe is maybe only 20 miles. And then Beebe to Guy or the Quitman area was, it said, about 34 miles or so. It is a windy, curvy path, though, so it probably takes people about 40 minutes to get there. So just kind of, this is kind of the realm of locations. So Sandra was living her best young adult life. She had just kind of in the past few months begun dating the Bruce person that I mentioned. That was her boyfriend. And evidently it stated that he was attending Arkansas State University there in Beebe. It doesn't say how they met, if they, maybe he just met her in town or whatnot, but because she was not a student there. It did say that she did not go to ASU-BB. And ASU-BB, we've talked about ASU-BB in several different episodes. This is Amber's home. She is a professor there, and she did go to school there, just like many people in the White County area, like myself,
Yep.
where I met my husband.
Yep.
And yes, and she was at BB today. So she met this guy, and she met him in BB, and he was a student there. But it mentioned that he was a Quitman boy. So that's where this Quitman guy situation. So he was from Quitman, and evidently his father lived in Quitman. So before she disappeared that Saturday, so the night before, which was the Friday night, her and Bruce, both of their parents were single, okay? So, and I don't know, this was mentioned in the AY article that just came out like this year, back in February. And this is a lot of information came from that article, and then another article that I'll talk about here in a moment. But so Norma was single, Bruce's dad was single. So I guess they were trying to get their parents together. And so they all went to dinner that Friday night before she disappeared, okay?
Well, that's interesting. That's it.
I know.
It's like,
I know.
It's kind of like a parent trap. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it is. I thought that was super fascinating that you would want. I mean, I guess that they just both, maybe their parents were, lonely or whatever, but interesting, huh?
How nice of them.
I know. So in this article, that of course is, a current article, Norma is recounting that evening, and she remembers that Bruce and Sandra kind of had a little tiff. She kind of didn't say what it was about. I guess she just witnessed it. But she did say all seemed okay with everyone because they decided that night. So they talked about the next night that they would all hang out in Quitman together. Like they would have a barbecue over at Bruce's dad's house, which was in Quitman. So that was kind of the plan, was that Sandra and Norma were going to drive to Quitman on Saturday, which would be the next night. So the next day it mentioned that Sandra had worked. So I guess she drove, to Lone Oak. It looked like her mother worked as well. And she got off work at around 3:30, and it said that she came home, she changed her clothes, And then she was going to drive back. So I guess they had just one car. And evidently this car was borrowed from Bruce's father. So this wasn't, I don't know if there was something wrong with her vehicle or whatnot, but I guess they had this vehicle that they were driving. But she was going to go back to Lone Oak to pick up her mother. And that's about a 20-minute drive, just to kind of give some perspective there. So she does go pick up her mom, and again, they're supposed to go to Quitman, but Norma had evidently slammed her hand in the car door. So she was, and then she had worked. So she was in pain. Like she was not feeling good. She just wanted to, I mean, I can't, you know how bad that hurts if you slam a body part in a car door, but, she just wanted to rest. She wanted to take some medicine, and she did not want to go. So she decided that she was not going to go. And so Sandra was going to go on alone. The article does mention that later in the evening, I guess Norma started to feel better. And so she decided to go later that evening to the VFW there in Beebe and listen to music, which was something that she liked to do. So not sure why that was mentioned, but it's an interesting little tidbit. So there you go. And that VFW is still there, by the way, in Beebe. Have you ever gone to that?
No, I can't say
me
I have. No.
me neither. I do know it's there because it's along it's like the old highway. So I like to go that
I know where it
way.
is. I think I've seen it. I've driven past there a few times.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, it's, there's a really good restaurant called, what is it called? What's that restaurant?
Martha Jean's.
Martha Jean's. Anyway. Getting off track, but there's a really good restaurant called Martha Jean's right there. So it states that around 10:30, and this was mentioned, so I did watch some YouTube videos, which I'll mention, that were by Sandra's brother, Carrie. So he mentioned that Bruce showed up at the house at like 9 p.m. looking for Sandra. But the article just mentioned that Bruce called Norma. Okay, so around 10:30 p.m., the article states that Bruce called Norma to figure out where Sandra was, because he was saying that she never showed up in Quitman. Now, I did watch a YouTube video that I'll mention, and I will share on our social medias, but Sandra's brother Carrie mentioned that Bruce showed up at the house looking for Sandra at around 9 o'clock. So I don't know what the discrepancy is, but basically Bruce called or showed up. And then it said that he drove to pick up Norma at the VFW. So Bruce stated that he drove along the way that Sandra would have gone to his house, because basically it's like Highway 31 is the route that you would take from Sandra's house in Beebe to get to his house. So he stated to Norma that he drove along that path, and he did see the 1984 gray Oldsmobile that his dad had loaned her was on the side of the road. So basically he came into Beebe to get Norma, and then the article states that they drove out at around, so this probably would have been maybe 11 o'clock at night or so, to find her car. And it's dark. They can't see anything. I will say this road, I've been on it numerous times. So my mother is buried up in Romance, and you get to her spot by going on this road. It is curvy.
Yep.
It is windy.
And it's dark at night.
Yes, it is dark. It's dark now, but I can only imagine in 1987, like there was like a logging road along it, but that was pretty much it. There are some houses now, but yes, it's dark. You definitely can't see anything. So after that, and Norma does say she wasn't really feeling any particular way. Like I guess she didn't have that panic, like what's going on. But they did say that Sandra's car, so when they found it, they had to drive to Quitman to get the spare key from his dad to actually get into it. But the car, kind of like, it was there, it was locked, it had gas in it, her purse was missing, the keys weren't in it. and the window was rolled down a smidge, kind of like how if someone pulled you over, kind of, it would be rolled down a little bit, like you kind of rolled it down to talk to someone. So that's how the car was found.
So she might have rolled it down to talk to someone, and that was the last thing that happened?
Yeah, that was kind of what they were feeling. But I guess it's kind of like she just she locked up the car. Like the car was locked up. You know, her purse wasn't in it. The keys weren't in it.
So but it didn't look like she got out.
Yes. I mean, there was
not by force.
Yes. There was not any indication that they saw of a struggle there or anything. It was almost like maybe she knew the person that was, type of situation, because there wasn't a struggle. It was not like she broke down or didn't have gas type of situation. So they did notate all of that going on. And again, it's night, it's dark and whatnot. So it does say the vehicle, was on the shoulder. And again, yeah. So the next day I guess they phoned the police or whatever, but at that time, evidently you could not do a missing persons report unless they had been missing for at least 24 hours. So she was not missing for 24 hours until about 4 or 5 p.m. Sunday. So at that time, Sunday's happening, they do go out. It says that Carrie went out during the day.
Oh, I just want to say before you went on, okay, so we were talking before the podcast about how when you went missing or something happened to you in the 80s, I mean,
it's kind of a terrible time. It was a terrible time
because when you said they had to wait 24 hours, that I'm like, okay, well, that right there, that's part of this problem, because we've heard this before while we do these podcasts, and we talk about things from the 60s, 70s, 80s. People have to be missing, a certain number of hours during that period. So anything can happen in 24 hours.
Oh,
that 24-hour time period is crucial. And I think that's why that has changed in the last 30 years, especially with children.
Yeah, well, yes. And she would have been, I was thinking about this, she would have been 20. So I don't believe even now they would have handled it like an Amber Alert type situation. But at least now, they even have a show about that, the first 48, it's how it's so important. And so definitely they don't have waiting periods now when someone is missing. Now, I will say, if you're 20 and you're an adult, even now they might be questioning, like, oh, they're just, blah, blah, blah. But fortunately now, if you're a child, everything's like very high alert, which is so much better. No, yeah. And we were talking about how, unfortunately, it's just horrible to be murdered in 1987 or any time really before all of the technology that we have now. Because, if things happen now, there's typically the cell phone. I mean, there's typically something going on, some sort of, trail, like whether it be an electronic trail or a phone trail. But this was 1987, it's just terrible. It's just terrible. So yes. So sorry. I didn't know you were signaling me for a question. I thought you were telling me like that I was doing something.
Oh no.
Because sometimes I am. So Sandra's brother, Carrie, when he went out there to the car, he notated that there was like deeper than normal tire tracks that were headed from like the rear of where the car was located towards a nearby bluff. And when we talk about bluff, so her car was kind of located along this road, this Highway 31, and you all can go, check it out. But along the way, these are like the Romance Bluffs or the Floyd Bluffs, they're called. And there's like lookout points now that you can pull over. But these bluffs were beautiful, actually, but they've been dumping ground. People have thrown stuff over these bluffs. They have graffitied all over the bluffs. But it's still a very pretty sight. But that's what he's talking about, nearby bluffs. So there's just beautiful bluffs going on there in the Romance Floyd area, which is along this Highway 31 where her car was found. So kind of fast forwarding, so the next day, Monday, or actually, yeah, I guess they went to do the paperwork Sunday night. So that's when they were able to file their missing persons report. And they went to the Beebe Police Department, but also, so the area where she actually went missing, where her car was parked, is White County. So you've got the Beebe Police Department is just where she lives, so that's where they knew to go. But really, the jurisdiction-wise, this is the White County Sheriff's Department. So they both got involved. They filed the paperwork. The whole town was being, on high alert, like all their friends and family. They were talking to them. And again, this would be Sunday. And so the family talks about within the next few days of all of this, of the actual bulletins being put out, like once the paperwork was done showing that she was missing, that things started to happen as far as they called in. I mean, they did extensive searches. They were searching all around the bluffs. They were searching by foot. They were searching by aerial. They had helicopters come in. One of the articles that I read talked about Carrie was in school. Like, I guess he had to go to school. He was 16 years old at this time. And he remembers hearing helicopters, when he was in school that day. So they even talk about how they called in the FBI. So they called in every possible situation that they could. They were, really busy and frantically looking for Sandra. So to kind of keep busy, I guess it doesn't mention exactly what day this was, whether it was like Monday or Tuesday, but I'm sure Norma was going out of her mind. Of course, her daughter's missing. They're best friends. They work together. They live together. Like, they are, super close. And so she's extremely upset, but she goes on to work, and she does state in this article that when she came home from work, she was surprised because Bruce was at her home, and he had brought some friends with him, and they were allegedly like helping to clean up from all of I'm sure they had tons of activity going on in the house because of all the friends and family coming over and such. But one of the friends that was with him, I'm not going to say, in the article, they said they're going to call this girl, by a different name. But evidently this girl had been his ex-girlfriend. And this girl had evidently been giving Sandra problems, like kind of, reaching out to Sandra in different ways, like Sandra's car. I know. It's super tacky. Like, Norma was, commenting on this, like, this was super shocking. This was super tacky because this girl was pretty contentious. Like, she had been, it didn't say harassing Sandra, but she had reached out to her saying that she wasn't going to give Bruce up. And then Sandra's car had kind of been painted with some obscenities and such. And this person was to blame for it. Like, evidently everybody knew it was her and had told Sandra it was her and such. So Sandra and this girl had beef. I mean, they did not get along. And evidently, again, this is his ex-girlfriend, and she was also a student there, it said, at ASU Beebe with him as well. So, and Norma was, just very upset to see her at the house, I mean, this is literally a day or two after Sandra's missing, and then for her to be with Bruce, and it kind of looked like she was kind of trying to, flirt with him or be with him or whatever, more than a friend. And then Norma did hear a few days later, it doesn't say how many days or whatever, but within this time period, that her and Bruce were dating again. So it was just really, obviously this is mentioned in the article by Norma. So this was just kind of, pointed at or whatever. So not sure what all that means. It doesn't say anything more than that. It was just obviously rude and something that, really upset the family and such. So again, 2 weeks go by, nothing's going on. But Saturday, May 9th, which was Mother's Day weekend, which we are approaching ourselves. In fact, today is the 8th, isn't it? That weekend, a fisherman was walking from, I guess he was walking to the creek or from the creek. He was going fishing, and he was kind of going in the direction, it said, of the logging trail. There was a logging road that was a little ways down, which is not there anymore. Evidently, it's like a house. But it just mentioned that he saw something. In one of the other articles I saw, it mentioned that he saw a pair of jeans, and he was just like, because he was out there in the woods.
Right.
Headed, it looks like it's that Bayou Des Arc down there. So I don't know if he was headed to the Bayou Des Arc to fish or coming back from it. It didn't really say or spell that out, but he sees a pair of jeans, and that's all he sees, and he does not want to approach it. And so he does contact, the authorities, and it turns out to be Sandra. So her body is found. It states that the body, not for sure how far apart from the car, but it's not hugely far from where the car was found.
I think I read somewhere 3 miles. Does that sound right? Something like that.
I was thinking it was less than probably a mile from where. Yeah, it said that. So once the body is found, it did say in the article, once the body was found, the Arkansas State Police got involved, and this is when and I guess I don't know if he's sergeant or what, it doesn't list J.R. Howard's title, but J.R. Howard, who is now retired, he was working the case. And so he did give interviews to AY, and then he also gave interviews on another article that I'm talking about that I'll link. But
Arkansas State Police said 2 weeks later her body was discovered about 3 miles south of where her car had been located.
Okay. He kind of dropped a pin. I'll kind of link the first video, and it kind of dropped a pin. It didn't, I guess it's 3 miles if they say so, but it didn't look very far. I guess it's a bigger area than I'm thinking it is, but it's right kind of in that area of the bluffs. And so, but JR was working the case. He noted in the article the location of the body below the crest of the hill made finding her unlikely either by the vehicles or the air, that they were doing, the air patrols, and that it appeared to be to him, and this also from, all items, I guess, that were in the case file, that it appeared to be where her body was dumped or left, but it did not appear to be the actual crime scene. So there wasn't any physical evidence, I guess, left at that scene. It just looked like where the perpetrator left her. So, and this is kind of just heads up, guys, this is where it kind of gets horrific. So Sandra had been stabbed multiple times. She had multiple stabs to her back and multiple stab wounds to her chest. And it appeared that a wide blade knife was used, and that they felt like it was possibly a hunting knife that was the knife that was used. Her mother states that it was vicious. It was absolutely vicious. It did not match any type of robbery situation. So that was kind of, I'm sure they were thinking, oh, she was robbed or whatever. But her mother was like, it was clearly not a robbery. It was clear to her mother that someone aimed to kill her and aimed for her to die in that manner. So it was just extremely vicious. Her mother also notates in the videos that I watched that she felt like the attacks happened to her back. So probably the person started at the back, and then she, I guess when she fell on the ground, the person just kept on going. So it was extremely vicious. It did not outline how many times Sandra was stabbed. I think I'm remembering another article that I read. I believe it was 20 times at least that she was stabbed. So she was stabbed brutally. And it does say that her car keys, were tucked deep into her pockets of her jeans, like she had put them there. So it kind of felt like she had just stuck them down in her pockets. She was missing just one sock and one shoe, but otherwise she was fully clothed, like no other clothing. They didn't feel like it was sexual in nature. Now, nothing is mentioned about an autopsy. There's not like an autopsy report mentioned or anything. This is an open case. So, of course, they're not going to release that kind of information. That there's just not going to be that type of information. Unfortunately, they state in the article, so, I mean, she was, went missing April 25th. She wasn't found until May 9th. Sometimes, I will tell you right now, what is our temperature today? Like 80s. It's been kind of warm and muggy.
Yeah, it's muggy and just, yeah.
We're kind of at that same time of year as this happened. So they state in the article, due to the unseasonably warm weather, the 2 weeks that she laid there, there was a whole lot of, disintegration going on. It made it very difficult to have it states, forensic evidence. So there was just a lot of, decay going on just due to the elements and such. And I'm sure, oh gosh, bugs and, it's the woods. It's deep in the woods. Okay. So the police, after this happened, they were interviewing many people in Sandra's circle, which did include, of course, her boyfriend, Bruce, and then that girl that we mentioned that he was dating before and after Sandra was killed. The article states all of these people passed their polygraphs. I've mentioned it before. I personally do not think polygraphs mean anything. And they don't hold up in court. I know the police use them. They probably use them in 1987. I don't personally feel like that means anything. So I think you're just a good liar or whatever. Some people are probably better than others. But the article states that they did pass polygraphs. There is a mention in the article that 2 other persons of interest willingly agreed to be polygraphed after a local drug dealer told authorities he had seen them in that area around the time of Sandra's disappearance. So evidently, two people were named, and so they did evidently, look into these people. All official, and it did give a quote unquote name, just like it did with that girl, but I'm not even going to say it because it's not even their name. It doesn't really matter. But it says all the officials concluded that Sandra herself was not on drugs. So they did not feel like this had anything to do with drugs. She had no drugs or alcohol in her system or in her person. Like, that was just not something that happened. Do you have a question?
So basically, this is what doesn't make sense to me. She would have had to have pulled over for someone on the side of the road. What would make somebody pull over for someone on the side of the road? Now, I don't know about you, but I pull over for nobody. Nobody. So that's my question. Was somebody in the car with her, and then, that happened, or did she literally pull over for someone she saw on the side of the road? And wasn't it in a place on 31 that is a little desolate? So
it's very desolate.
Why would you do that? That's my question.
I would really think, in the back of my head, remember when they talk about the blue light rapists or people pretending to be cops or whatever? Like, I would think the only way that a woman would pull over, and this, now I will say,
that's a good question. But hey, before you go into blue light rapist, we might want to give some of our viewers kind of a little background on that. That was something that happened in Arkansas in the 90s.
Yes. And and we will do an episode later on about that, for
I think that's the first time we've ever mentioned that. And
I think so.
But it was something that, like, I know our parents were always scared to death for us to drive around by ourselves at night because, the blue light rapist, blah, blah, blah. So, so those kinds of things have happened in Arkansas. And you are right. I mean, to pull over for somebody, it would have to be a police officer with a light for me to pull over.
Yes. Or I was thinking, okay, so looking back, like thinking more into this, so she left her house, according to her family, she left Beebe at around 4:30. It takes 40 minutes. So probably that's the halfway mark. So we're talking 5 o'clock. It was not dark at this time.
No, it wasn't dark.
So the darkness wouldn't have been a factor.
Okay.
So there could have been maybe someone that was waving her down, because she only cracked that window a little bit, and then maybe I feel like it indicates that she knew this person, to me.
Possibly.
Possibly. Or it was maybe just she's super nice person. Like, I mean, her friend said that she was the epitome of sweetness. She looks like a sweet person. I mean, she looks super caring and sweet, and she was obviously helpful. She worked in a nursing home. You know, she was a helper. So, you know, there could have been a situation where she saw someone on the side of the road that looked like they needed help. That could have happened. Or again, someone posing as, you know, an authority figure, you know, like a police officer or something. So, I mean, those are the only three things that come into my mind. She either knew the person waving her down, she was just helpful and saw someone in need, or, you know, it was someone pretending, you know, Ted Bundy like. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, so all possible scenarios. But yeah, I didn't think about, like, so it would have been probably about 5 o'clock ish when she was driving that way. Because I used to make that drive actually all the time between Beebe and Heber. But yeah, so if somebody was waving her down, or if someone got in the middle of the road, I mean, yeah, maybe she would stop. I don't know. I still am hanging on. It is, but I'm
it's
not
also
I'm not
1987.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I'm not gonna like quit thinking the possibility of a blue light situation, because that just that to me is also
it could be.
probable.
You know,
possible, not probable, but possible.
Yeah, possible. Definitely possible that someone was pretending to be, you know, authority. So.
Especially given the fact that not too many years after, we had a real problem with that in the state of Arkansas.
Yes. And this would have been, you know, this could have been the fledgling beginnings, you know, on this desolate road. Yeah, definitely. So there's definitely possibilities there on that. So it does state, sorry, where did I finish up? Okay, so the police were doing their interviews, and then I mentioned about the drug dealers, but that the officials definitely did not feel that Sandra in any way had any connection to drug dealers or anything. That doesn't mean that a drug dealer couldn't have done this, but she did not have any personal connection. It does say that law enforcement were given access to, I guess this person popped up on their radar, and they went and searched this person's vehicle, and they did find a hair. And the strand was tested at this time, and it doesn't say exactly the year, but this would have been probably early 90s that this was done, even the late 80s. And it was found to be similar to Sandra's hair, but, you know, J.R. Howard knew that similar doesn't mean anything as far as when you're looking at prosecution, even in that time frame. They did make further attempts to analyze the hair for forensic proof, but it did fail, and in that process, it disintegrated the hair for future testing. So the hair's gone. In fact, in a different article, Howard mentions that, you know, he would just love for anything to have that hair back. You know, that it was just, I guess, devastating when all that testing did not do anything but just disintegrate that hair. It did say, and again, nothing about the time frame or the year when this happened. I'm assuming it was shortly thereafter, because it really didn't say, but someone found Sandra's social security card at the Lost and Found at ASU Beebe. On their campus.
Really?
Yes. And it does state Sandra was never a student there. You know, only her boyfriend and his ex went to school there.
That is interesting.
Yes, very interesting. Additionally, someone notified the police, even, I guess in the same time frame, but later, that a person showed up to a nightclub in Jacksonville and tried to use Sandra's ID at the door. And yes, and
no way.
Yes, and the bouncer stated to the police or whatever that he knew that the person was not Sandra. Like, he could tell. He was like, "You were not this person," but he did not take the ID, so he did not confiscate the ID. He just let them. He was like, "No, you're not that person. Bye." You know. he did state, he just stated by physical looking or whatever that it was not Sandra. So,
wow,
yes.
that's crazy.
So, yes. So, oh, you go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say, remind me to tell you my fake ID story later.
Okay. We'll share it. Yeah, we'll share it in. That sounds like a good banter moment. Okay. So this is kind of, all the information that they state in the articles. That's all the information I could find. Like I said, there is a 4-part video on like YouTube from Sandra's brother, Carrie, that he does ask for people to, share and go in there and watch and share this video. And he does go to the different spots and he shows the map. So I'm going to share the first video and then you can click on the following videos. So it is, it's just very heart-wrenching. It does show a video. The second one, I believe, shows Norma discussing everything. And it's just terrible. It's just so sad. So where we're at today. So these articles were written pretty fresh. So basically, all the leads had dried up. This case over the years grew cold. But the Arkansas State Police, they have, I guess in 2020, they put together a new cold case division. And so they are working all of these cold case files. I believe it stated that they have begun working 175 cases in the state since 2020. And that Major Stacy Rhodes is the commander of this unit. And it is a mix of retired and active agents. So they are really working this file. I know from a conversation I had myself with JR, like he is very, very hopeful that this work on the file will produce, some good movements in the case for Norma and the family and Carrie. So they do ask in these articles, if you have any information at all about Sandra Lynn Williams, that you will reach out to White County Sheriff's Office, and they list the phone number is 501-299-6279, or the Arkansas State Police Troop B at 870-523-2701. And a big thank you to Jamie, kind of a shout out. She was friends with Sandra. She, brought this to our attention and asked for us to do this. And it's really tough talking about these cases and, it pulls at you. So, I really, really want everyone, obviously it's going to take someone coming forward. If you know of anything, even a small little tidbit can produce a big movement in the case. So if you think you know who did it, or if you think, if you've heard rumors over the years, again, there's been a lot of rumors. The family did state that, and they really just want proof, solid proof. And I think in cold cases like this, the proof is going to be people coming forward to say what they know,
Yeah, I think you're right. And, we've talked about rumors before and rumors in a small town. And sometimes there is an inkling or a seed, a grain of truth in some of those rumors. They had to start from somewhere. Now, some are just crap, but there are some, sometimes a rumor will have a root to the actual truth.
Yes. And I will say, and speaking of that, one thing I kind of had a note on from watching, because I put together my episode and then I found these videos on the YouTube. So evidently during that 2-week, situation where Sandra was missing, a psychic was involved and told Norma that Sandra was in Memphis and had been beaten or something.
What?
So yes. So things,
So what is your theory on bringing in psychics? Because we're Unexplained Arkansas, so this kind of falls into the realm of the unexplained as well. And I know there are some psychics working in Arkansas, right now. I don't know.
I guess I personally, this obviously wasn't true at all, but if something happened to my family, I would be willing to do anything I could. I'd call in a psychic or, not to say I totally believe. I think some people I think some people are intuitive. I do. So,
right.
but I do think a lot of people pretend.
Yes. I think it'd be interesting to research cases in Arkansas history, criminology that have, included the use of psychics or people that have those whatever, sixth senses or whatever. So,
because we did talk about remember in our Dehorn's Grave, episode, how he was, we didn't mention him as a psychic or anything, but he was able to kind of tell people certain things,
right.
Kind of, and some people, I do believe some people have that ability as, to me, a God-given, just trait, like a spiritual, gift. But I think a lot of people are crackpots, and they'll be like, well, anyway.
Yeah. I do think there are some very intuitive people and some very gifted people, but like you said, the vast majority of those are probably few and far between, and the ones that are out there selling and trying to make money off of it probably are not the real deal.
Yeah. Yes. So I agree. I'm with you on that. High five, Amy.
Yeah.
So that's all I have on that. But yes, please.
Wow.
It's a lot, and it's sickening to know that so many, and we talked about this before, so many people get away with murder.
Oh, I know. And I think it's crazy. We picked this one and we decided to do it today, not realizing the dates. And tomorrow is May 9th.
Yes.
And it'll probably, I don't know, I'm probably going to put it up tonight for a listen for streaming. But so we're, how many years is that? 87
to now.
Yeah,
we're looking at 7 years. So what, 47 years? 37 years? Lord.
Okay, math girl. No, 87. That's like, okay, we're sitting here trying to figure out math.
Oh, that's less than us. Well, we're 43.
I was born in 81 and I'm 42.
Whatever. So
yes.
37 years.
37 years. Yes. 37. So this case has set cold for 37 years.
Yes.
And a family has been devastated for 37 years. So yes, if you know something, or if you know someone that might know something, share something.
It. Yes. Do it anonymously if you must. I mean, put together one of those crazy, puzzle.
That's the way to start. Put together one of those crazy emails. No.
Yeah. Well, not an email. That's an electronic trace. But I was just saying, I mean, mail. So, I mean, if you really, I don't know, if you're scared of someone, just whisper it to us.
Whisper it.
I don't know. Just find a way to tell the people that need to know. Well, yeah.
We hear way too much as it is. Y'all have no idea how much we know.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. So that is a really interesting story. And the fact that they are still openly out there investigating this, hopefully there will be some new leads, and hopefully getting this story out on our podcast, and maybe some other podcasts in Arkansas will follow and get this out. Maybe we will find something out. Now, I will, on that note, since we are at the mullet end, business was in the front. So those of you that don't like the banter, bye. See ya.
Bye. Well, and we do have business to talk about too, because that's why I was getting a little bit. But yes, we've got banter, and then we've got just pod business. So, and shout outs.
Well, I will say one thing that I have been doing this week. I've been reading the new book on Ruby Stapleton. It is a lot. It is a lot. So we have covered Ruby. We had, was it 2 or 3 episodes on Ruby? Was it 2? 3? I don't know. We had several. Yes. I don't know. But, and we'll have another one now after these books come out.
We had 2, but they were really long. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it was. So this book has came out, and you can buy it on Amazon. And then there's another one coming out soon. So there's going to be 2 books out on Ruby. So we are going to do a follow-up on the Ruby Stapleton case this summer. And we're excited about that. But if you want to read all the stuff beforehand, the book is out and available on Amazon. And the writer, I think, is a family member of Ruby's, and it's very detailed, and it comes straight from the case file, and there's lots of specific things in there that we did not go into on the podcast.
Yes, very detailed, and I'm excited to read. I have mine ordered.
Yes,
and it is called. Do you have the name?
Is it the Washateria murder or the?
Yes, the story of Ruby or something. Yes.
Something like that.
And we have posted it on our Facebook. So yes, you can go in and find that.
And speaking of books, if you do want to join our book club, that is something we have started this week with our Patreon members. We are deciding on our first book for the month of May. Now, we'll tell everybody what our book is. We'll put that like on Facebook and stuff. But to do our actual chats and, book club meetings, you'll have to do the Patreon. And I'll have more information on that as it becomes available. Now, everything else, like our podcast, will still be available wherever you get your podcasts. We do have a special little mini podcast that we're calling Horror Heifers. I gotta learn to say that. Horror Heifers. Horror Heifers. And for right now, that's going to be broadcast on Patreon. And it's only going to be once or twice a month. And we'll be talking about our favorite horror movies. And I will warn you now, there'll be lots of banter with those. And it'll probably be
mainly banter.
More funny than not. But if you do like our banter, think about joining our Patreon.
Yes.
Also, we are filling up our schedule for summer 2024, and we are looking at going to a library or bookstore near you. So if you work or are affiliated with any of these types of places and you would like us to come speak, then just send us an email or message us on Facebook.
Yay. And so yes, we are Unexplained Arkansas on the Facebook and the Instagram.
Facebook.
Please go in. So we are having awesome movement on our YouTube, and we have a goal set. So please go in. If you are on YouTube, go and subscribe, please. That helps us out. Go comment, go share our episodes. We've only been on that platform for 4 or 5 weeks, but we've already had about 8,000 listens just on that platform. And we did reach over 50,000 listens. So everything's going great. You guys are awesome. You're supporting us. But if you want insider information, you will need to join one of our Patreon tiers. It's as cheap as $1 to join, our Patreon. So you can click the links on the Instagram and such. So several things to support us, and we would love, and then also send us some mail. So we did have a listener reach out and say that they were going to send us a care package to Andy and Lise. I know.
Oh, nice. And so the Patreon thing, we were on the fence about Patreon, but we really are doing it just to kind of support our habit, being able to do these investigations and going out to these places and the books that we want to buy and, the research that we do. So it's really just to support our habit because we love what we do and we want to keep doing it and more of it.
Yes, and more to you guys. So, yes, but definitely feel free to reach out to us on any of the items and mail us. P.O. Box 120, Searcy, Arkansas, 72145. So, yay.
Sounds good. Okay, and again, please, if you have any information on the Williams case, we ask you to please come forward because her family needs peace and answers. So we will keep on keeping on in the next few weeks. We have a few more cold cases to cover and an interesting topic
summer topics.
Summer topics. Well, I don't know. My tuberculosis topic is next. That's not really summer. I don't know what that is.
I plan on doing like the White River Monster. That will be coming. Kind of spending some time at the lakes, maybe doing go in the Heber direction. But people are really asking for us to go to Pine Bluff. So that is going to be happening too. So
the Crescent. We do have a trip to the Crescent in the works, and we will do a multi-art episode. We'll do more than one episode on the Crescent Hotel.
Yeah.
And because there's so much to
yes.
to
There's
dig
like
out of there.
Yeah, history, the hauntings, our own personal experiences that we have had and will have, because we're going to have such a good time.
Yeah, we are going to try to spend at least 1 or 2 nights there this summer, and we are very excited about that. We're going to take our old buddy Sherry along from high school.
Yes.
And we'll see what we can get into. So, so that's it. So do you have anything else, Lisa?
I am good, girlfriend.
Okay, girlfriend. All right. Well, that's it. We thank you guys very much for listening, and we will see you again soon.
Love ya.